countertops are coming in today for the kitchen. I gotta say, it feels great. One of those things. Going to be a busy Monday. We even got some new plants back here, so we're kind of setting the tone on this new remodel. Between the upgrade of the kitchen, getting some new plants in place, and then lining up what's ahead, it's definitely a great, strong reset, and we're starting off good to our Monday. So the energy is good, momentum is good. We wanted to do a breakdown today on what's shaping up this week. It's shaping up to be a good week. We see APLD rocket about 16% today, and that's where the story really begins for this video. Is we're gonna jump into that surge that we see. We actually covered Applied Digital yesterday. We did a video here. You see the live talk in our Sunday stock talk there, because we noticed a lot of movement in the company. So we're gonna do a breakdown on APLD. Now, one thing to note here, because we're live right now, we're following the top AI companies in the AI space, whether it's data centers. We see APLDs optimized for the workloads for a lot of companies in the cloud. They are directly on the demand surge right now for GPUs. And right now, with every major AI company kind of scrambling for compute right now, the demand is exploding. And we see this double-digit move, a 14% increase today. It was not just a technical bounce, it's definitely market pricing in for what could be some runway growth for them. And we got an AI boom happening right now. So one thing to note, if you guys are looking for some of the multiplier effects of AI companies, we're going to jump in and really break down some of the top companies that could be good in the next 3-5 years. But we just wrapped up our live session. We were actually trading Tesla stock. There was a move here. It was on TSLL was the trade. The volatility, gives us those entries and exits on the short term. And, when the broader market feels quiet, these are one of those things. We've seen Tesla moving to AI companies. We like the trade today. We ended up buying this morning. Let's see where we're at. We're buying this morning right here, and we're up $59. So whether it's energy, robotics, AI companies, we also have the long-term plays. We got long-term plays on APLD. So when that demand zone was hit this morning on Tesla, we saw it start to break out of this trend, and we got in, and it's up about 2% right now. And so if you want to project more names like this, I would encourage you guys, we look for companies with asymmetric potential. And so StockMe is going to be the second link in the description. If you want to learn how to invest, join us in our daily live sessions that we just wrapped up. I know it looks crazy. There's a lot of lines and things like that, but I promise you, when we were taking the trade this morning, it was pretty straightforward. Let me hide all the drawings. It was pretty straightforward in our trade. So APLD, let's jump into it. So APLD made this big move up into the $16.92 range. Now, when it comes to the AI movements we've seen, we're watching this trend here. So we were yesterday looking for what was a 7% move. That's kind of what our video was about. We ended up not just getting this 7% move. So we were looking for this right here, this 7% move up into this $15 range. But we actually got more than 7%. We actually got a 20% increase, and then it pulled back down here. So now AMD is leading the way on our positions. We're up 71% overall on this trade. And I want to pull up the chat, see what you guys think. But now, next level of support is definitely up here above 1550. We might even see next level of support here could be the top here, this resistance we saw earlier back on August 13th. Around $16 a share could be that next support level. You can see that's kind of where that EMA is going to be. That blue line is going to act as maybe a support there. And that's the hyper bull trend potential for APLD. So why are they surging today? Well, APLD, I don't want to see the live chat. I want to see what you guys say. Recently started building some data centers here for like CoreWeave. They're a big AI company. I think that's an $11 billion deal. You look at, they provide trusted by NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is building a lot of data centers. You got Dell Technology, Intel, Hewlett Packard, partner with Super Micro, so maybe that's could be related to XAI, which could be a route they go. But they focus on these data centers that are engineered to bring the workloads directly to the points of generation. What this means is, rather than just springing up a big data center and then sucking the grid for power from a city and then having huge electric bills or impacting the environment pretty badly, they're going to maximize efficiency, probably be around wind turbines. Like, for example, North Dakota is where this deal is. They got wind turbines in the area. I don't know that they have solar. Maybe they got solar. I don't know that they have hydro. I know they got water out there. I don't know if it's hydroelectric, but I know they got wind power out there. And so basically they focus on that, and then also North Dakota being a cold place, they add that into the equation for building these data centers sustainably. So what does that mean? Well, shortly after some of these news, the news has come out here for APLD, and we take a look, maybe down into some of the reports. You got BlackRock really increase their positions. We see they recently changed their shares a little bit, maybe decreased a tad bit recently, but overall, big investor BlackRock, Vanguard, Goldman Sachs, and State Street have been buying up shares a lot for this company. You got Charles Schwab, and you see more increased positions than decreased positions, something we talk about quite often. So with this 13.9% move, or at one point, what was a 16% surge, or a 20% surge since we did our analysis yesterday, we're able, to lock in, just around $1,000 so far in profit. And then we're also able to get up into this new level of resistance where they just got rejected a little bit. And now we're saying, okay, maybe that new support here, this is the bull trend. This is that they stay very bullish, is at around $16. That's where they are now. Right around 1590, somewhere in here, maybe even 1575. Now, conservatively, a correction down from here would be more like a correction down about 4% into this $15.50 range, or even very conservatively would be that they sell down into this 1350. And you might say, oh my gosh, Will, 1350, that's way down from where they are. Well, that's where they were on Friday and into pre-market today. So what we're looking at here, and if you back up 3 month, again, we're up 71% on them, but I'll tell you, like, we've been covering them since the beginning of the year. It took them a while to just recently go from $3 a share up into this $15 range. And so with this move today, we're looking at those levels in the near term, but they've definitely pulled up significantly. The RSI MACD looking way overbought at the moment, so we could see some corrections there. It's possible. And I'm gonna pull up the live chat too, because I gotta be able to see what the consensus is here from you all. How are things going? How's your Monday going, guys? How's everybody? Let's see what we got. Albertson says, yay, I knew it was a good call to hold APLD, going for $20. I love it. I'm glad that Albertson has a good position there. And then saying, take a look at IPA. We can take a look at that, Albertson. Appreciate you, man. Gary, hey, Gary. Kevin, APLD, nicely up. CTM, not so hot today. Are they down 5% or something like that? 5.9%. We saw that this morning. We'll have to go over that one. We can go over that one. Kevin, good stuff. Kush, howdy, what's going on? Johnny, good to see you. Looks like a green screen now, which is good. That is good. Louabelle says, hey, Will, nice APLD surge. Would love your thoughts on Soundhound. We can jump into it. I appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. Boris, let's go BBAI. We need you to run, says Boris. All right, we'll take a look. Boris, appreciate you. All right, so could it be APLD that made that order? Albertson says we could take a look. Stocks AI says $20 coming soon. Don't sell. That's what he says. All right. Very bullish. Like I said, I would imagine we could see some pullbacks on the way there, but long term, I think $20 makes a lot of sense. But again, short term, you see that big spike. A lot of times when we see that RSI MACD get way overbought, like we have in the previous spikes, we do see either a temporary pullback like we saw here, or at least some correction after the fact. And we already seen that. This morning it was 17% at one point, right when we wrapped up our daily live trading session. And we saw it this morning, and right at market open, we said, we're going to wait a second. Let's let it pull back. And it did pull back a little bit. We see it pull back down to 13.5 now. So kind of making its way back just a little bit. Now it's got its first red 30-minute candlestick there. And then Carmen says AMPX is one you're watching. Okay, we'll take a look. So, when it comes down to APLD, we're seeing their financials. This is something we talked about yesterday. We did a video. I don't know if you guys caught it. I actually want to leave the link for you if you didn't. It's a full breakdown of the 7 steps we go through. It's a full, I basically gave you all of my knowledge on how I identify individual stocks and scale my portfolio. And it's a whiteboard video. If you want to take notes, it's helpful. I'll drop it in the chat there. But I'll tell you, one of the things with this is we talked about one of the rules of Benjamin Graham, who was a mentor for Warren Buffett, is that he looks for opportunities where the assets or the amount of money they're making is greater than that of their market cap. And so the market cap right now is a $4.2 billion market cap. If we head back over to the investor side of things for their company, they're breaking ground on a $3 billion Polaris Forge 2 campus. And that's in North Dakota. Then you got, that was just today, a $3 billion deal. Then they had a, what was it, a $9 or $11 billion deal with CoreWeave. And so really where they're at now is seeing these billions of dollars, in potential, and they are at a $4 billion market cap. So their revenue hasn't caught up. They're still holding just below 50 million a quarter. We've seen it kind of increase year over year up to about 150 million. But their balance sheet looks pretty healthy with 1.8 billion in assets and increasing 145% year over year. They're on track to really be a solid mover. So that's why we got them there. And that's why we're covering them. So again, 13% move. Love to see it. Glad people were able to make some money today. And yeah, gotta love it. So when it comes down to Albertson, he says, hey, can we take a look at IPA? So let me take a look at it. I believe we may have covered this stock before. Could be wrong. It's but that's, guys, that's a wrap for APLD. Hopefully that's a good, just one more look. Again, they got a support that we're mapped out around $15.95. If that doesn't hold, next support is around $15.35. They're trying to get up into this $25, $30 range that we've seen them get up into before, back here into $20 somewhere in here. And that would be, a longer term perspective would be, 20% to 100% potential increase. And that's just something on the long term. On the short term, might even expect a pullback or some temporary volatility is definitely expected on the short term. Hopefully that makes sense. Everything good with APLT? You guys have any questions before we move on? Last thing I'd say is they're in the data center market. This is a market that when I'm listening to earnings calls on Apple, we're reading up on their reports, whether it's Morningstar reports or what's driving institutional buying in different companies from NVIDIA to AMD to you could look at Tesla or Microsoft. They're all talking about data centers. They're all talking about AI. They're all talking about where they can build their infrastructure. So that's one thing to note. And then, there is this index that I kind of rely on that I personally use for my own investing. It's called a CRI index. And I made it up for myself, but basically the index is like, how much of an impact would it have on a company if this smaller company was not there to provide their service to the bigger company? And if that smaller companies, if there was a lack of that smaller company, that the bigger company would suffer and have a hard time if they didn't have that smaller company, that means that smaller company is very valuable. So usually it's like 10%, 20% of impact. That's helped us to be able to find NVIDIA before it blew up because a lot of companies were relying on it. That's helped us to be able to look at APLD and say, hey, a lot of companies are building data centers. This is a big deal. And so that's kind of what's driven, I guess, the identification of some of these stocks that have allowed us to grow our portfolio above market this year. So that's kind of the breakdown. So hopefully that's helpful. One of the things that's led to our success. Now, when it comes to this stock, this is the one. It was called IPA. It is from one of the people in our live chat. They're up 26% today. It looks really, really risky. Looks like a pump and dump. If I had to say so myself, I would not invest in it. Okay. But let's take a look at what's going on with their financials and everything else. IPA stock, they're an antibodies company. Okay. 6 million, 7 million a quarter annual revenue, around that, of a company that's operating okay. They have a negative net income, and their assets have been declining. Do you guys see this? Assets declining. Who is this for? Was this for Albertson? All right, Albertson, appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. I'm glad you're able to make some money and holding APLD. This is one, probably, maybe not, could be wrong, but from my perspective, not even looking at product, just looking at the chart and the financials, assets declining. See this? 2022 to 2023, 2024, 2025. You see assets declining and liabilities actually more or less rising. Okay? Assets declining, liabilities staying the same or rising. See how their assets went down 25% while their liabilities only went down 14%? That's not very healthy. And so they're okay right now, but in the scale that they're at right now, maybe a little bit of an increase in revenue right now. But again, market cap 117 million, not showing signs of growth year over year on their balance sheet. And they've been heavily manipulated in the past. There, Albertson. I mean, this is a big manipulation, right? We've seen this before. And I wouldn't urge anybody to take a look at it. It could be absolutely a rug pull of sorts. I mean, just based on what we've seen before, it's gone from $33 down to 10 cents or whatever. So that's just my take on it. But hopefully that's helpful. And again, I appreciate you bringing up the stock. Just kind of my 2 cents there. Hopefully that's helpful. Awesome. Okay, Kevin says CTM. We'll take a look at it. Okay, and the other thing, Albertson, you say AI and medical, this company, and that they have 2 very cool patents. Just a rule of thumb, I can do a patent pretty easily. You can do a patent. Is it something that, with today's technology and internet and everything, it's not too hard. And just because something has a patent doesn't mean it's necessarily valuable. So just companies that say like, we have this patented and nobody's going to copy us, that's totally fine. And it could be good for an advantage potentially, but it does not mean that it's what they have is necessarily valuable. And it's actually sometimes a red flag when companies are like, we have a new patent. Check this out. We got a patent. Just keep that in mind. Sometimes something to look at. Okay. Not necessarily saying that's the case here, but it does happen. So just keeping that in mind. All right, let's move on. So not IPA. I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't invest in it right now. Could be potentially good for Albertson. All power to you if you want to take a look at it. But when it comes to the next one we're watching here, CTM stock. So CTM dragging out a little bit further than we'd like to see them drag out. We see them dip down to this $1.09 range. Basically this morning we were looking at it and we were almost going to trade it this morning. I have long-term positions on it. So, it's not necessarily cool to see that dip there today. We see it sell back down to a previous support level. Okay, so we got a support level right here. Pretty strong support. they're at $1. We've definitely seen that level be a key level for them. They ended up bouncing there today down to $1. If we were patient, it could have been a nice trade there, about 10%. They dipped as low as $1 there. But this morning we saw them at, I think it was $1.10, somewhere in there this morning at market open. And instead we went with Tesla to trade them because they had some more momentum, some things happening in AI. So we're up on that position. But yeah, no, it's not necessarily a break in pattern. Just a little bit more of a consolidation. Is it a little bit more of a left to right than we'd like to see? Yeah, it's not bearish. They're over that 200-day moving average, so I wouldn't necessarily say it's bearish just yet. You have a resistance level there, so they're kind of trying to find that support. It's possible they sell. The next level of support would be down around 87 cents. Now, I wouldn't like to see that. That would not be as favorable. But from a perspective of being at the $1.08 range, I would watch that dollar price point really carefully. Personally, I'd like to see a move like this on them. Something like this, about 20-25%. Why would they make that 20-30% move? If we're looking at them from a financial perspective, we're just talking about it. Look for companies with assets and deals that are above their market cap. They're a company, they've got over $100 million contract. Maybe it's depleted a little bit over one quarter, but their market cap's at $100 million. Their quarterly revenue came in at $14 million with just a tiny bit negative net income there. You have the annual incomes have been increasing, and it looks like in 2025 they're on track to most likely come in around 60 million in revenue, which would be an increase from 2024. Their net profit margins are up 85% year over year, which is good. And their balance sheet, they got 43 million in assets with only 11 million in liabilities. Pretty good. You see their liabilities dropping year over year by 32%, with their assets increasing by 47%. I mean, it's just a good financial balance sheet. It's a good revenue sheet to be looking at, and the income statement looks good. So I see them as a great value play long term, personally. So I got holds there. But yeah, I mean, to see them sell down as they sold down a little bit today, you see them get into those levels. Now we're starting to say, okay, maybe we're now going a little more horizontal than we'd like to. Not anything bearish yet. If we start to get below that 95-cent range, now we're starting to look, okay, what do we got going? Are they more on the bearish side? Historically, when they've gotten down into these levels that they're at now, they've been more of a buying opportunity in that 30 to 40 on the RSI. So for CTM stock, from a technical perspective, looking a little bit more like a better deal. As we were kind of talking about it, we could see them bounce here. We could see that increase up right away. But we could also see, something along the lines of a conservative market cap build. And that's kind of what you get with these longer term companies that don't have hype articles. I don't see any hype articles for the company. You're not going to see buy this and it's going to go to the moon. You're not going to see all those. While that might surge the stock, it's actually quite healthy for a stock with around $100 million market cap to just kind of slowly build it up. Now they have surged to, I don't know, 180 million at one point, to $2 a share at one point. But that's not a really big buy. It doesn't take much to move this stock. So I do urge caution. If you're not in it for the long term and just kind of trading it, really a good idea to have a good plan. I'll give you an example. Like this morning, we entered a trade with Tesla. And we'll get to the next one. I appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in, guys. There's another ticker symbol there. And Albertson says you sold them a 262% profit on IPA. Let's go. I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing that awesome profit there. Why not says, I guess APLD used the increase in convertible preferred stock correctly. Yeah, I mean, they raised money, right? And they're getting the deals now. That's why they're up, 14%. And that's what we're really looking at. So this morning when we were trading Tesla stock, which we're in right now, TSLL, it hasn't moved much since entry. I don't think, let me see. I was trying, I was hiding all of our drawings. Nothing really. It's up $34. It hasn't moved really at all since entry today. Um, we saw a little bit of a recent correction, but we kind of saw this move this morning, and we were looking at this trend here on Tesla. It was TSLL, and we'll see. Maybe we get a break in pattern, which we could watch. But when it comes to the drawings, I think we should have some drawings. And we got into this trade. There it is. Stop loss around 12 bucks. Yeah, so we're up right now. I think at one point maybe we're $100 profit, but we're going for about a $312 profit. And it's a smaller position. I think we got 255 shares, something like that, around $4,000. But we're looking for that 10% margin on a shorter term trade on a 2x. It's a higher volatility play. Hasn't moved much, but we're going for that 1350 riser. But the reason I share that with you is, let's say you're trading CTM stock, or you're trading even IPA, which, we didn't like the financials of, but, from the move perspective, there was something there. Albertson got a 262% profit. That's amazing. When those things happen, what's going to be your number one advantage? What is the thing that most investors fail to do that almost always leads to, failure? So they fail to plan. Have you guys heard that? Fail to prepare to fail. We always plan, and we have a plan in place. And I'll actually leave this. You guys can grab this profit calculator if you guys want it. I'll drop it in the live chat right now for you, or you can go to the first link. I think it is in the description if you're watching the replay. But basically, we go in and we're like, okay, how much margin for profit are we going for? Okay, we're going for 10% here. All right, and that means we're at 2% stop. That's how I personally trade. Okay, current price here, and then we get this outlook. It's a coding. I set it up. It's a stock profit calculator. It's code, so you can use it as much as you want. I use it for nearly all my trades. Keeps my risk management tight in those shorter term positions with the margin for profit great. Much greater than that of our stop loss, so we can afford to lose positions if we do. But we used it today. This is the exact plan we kind of set out for on Tesla today in this trade, and we actually did this. I think it was a month ago. Over here, you see this trade right here. We were trading TSLL, and this was the same trade we made. We were entering down here. We had a stop somewhere around $10, or maybe it was $9.70, and we were looking for a profit up here in around $13, and it was a nice trade. It was I want to say it was a 20% trade. It was a 20 to 30% trade. Now we used the profit calculator there. Now we're in a trade right here on Tesla, kind of same deal. It's a 10% trade, a little bit smaller margin, which means we're going to have a tighter stop. And so, that's kind of how it works. And I just want to share with you guys that, because some people are like, Will, I'm in these stocks. I don't fully understand like what I'm doing on the short term. Like, I understand, we look at the news, we look at the financials, we look at the market. It's in the AI market, let's say. It looks good. Or it's in the space tech market and it's a leader. We know it's good. But what do I do on those shorter term plays? How do you play it when you got your long term and your short term? And how do you capitalize on the shorter opportunities? Maybe higher risk, but you manage risk and you don't freak out when it goes up or down, or you know what to do, when to buy, when to sell. I'll tell you what, it really comes down to the plan and probability, and making sure we execute that plan confidently. If you don't have the confidence, you won't stick to a plan. How many of you guys have been there? You end up holding a stock that you don't want to hold longer than you should have held it. Anybody been there? Or you see a stock go up to amazing levels. You're very excited. You're very euphoric, but something in you gets greedy, or there's emotions involved, and you don't sell when you're up tremendously, and it ends up going back down to where you were. Or worse, then you don't have a stop loss and it goes even further down and you end up losing money. Those are the types of things that having a plan shields. And it's the same as in life as it is for trading and investing. It's the same as in business. Plans will transform your portfolio. So even on the long term, we really do stick to a lot of goal-oriented approaches. We write them down. And so that's kind of the breakdown. Robert Steele says, can you take a look at LUNR stock? We can. And wow, you got TSSI, that's the other data center company. They sold down to their support around $15 a share. So we'll be watching there. I think that it's interesting to, as well, with all the AI companies that are moving right now, just to see some of the impact on things like the things that pass in the bills from the government, or what's happening right now specifically with the tariffs. That's really interesting on some of the GPU stuff. But when it comes to the space tech industry, I recently went to a conference over in it was in Colorado Springs. I got to talk with Lockheed Martin. We talked with Redwire. We talked with a lot of those companies. And Rocket Lab, I got a friend that works at Rocket Lab. I've known since second grade. Him and I started investing young, around 13 or age of 13 or younger. I think we were getting into it. And he's in Rocket Lab, or he works at Rocket Lab, and he's got Rocket Lab stock. But revenue wise from LUNR, they recently signed a deal. So this was kind of let me kind of walk through a trade we got going with LUNR as well. So LUNR, we're looking for kind of a stop down here around $9 at $9.30. This is the trade / setup we're watching with LUNR. Now, I think we don't have any positions short term with LUNR, but I like this company long term. I really like this company long term, and I'll tell you why. While we see kind of that short term play, that recovery, this is really the move I'm looking at with LUNR. It's a 130% move. Now, we were able to catch a move similar on Black Sky. We even caught some on APLD or AMD. They're up 70%. But I'll tell you what, LUNR stock, LUNR, is the Intuitive Machines company. They just signed a $10 million contract, something like that. Their market cap's at 1.6 billion, so they're now, over $1 billion. They cut their revenue guidance, which was not so hot, but their revenue around $50 to $60 million a quarter is going to put them, above their last year's revenue. And the balance sheet, it didn't look good in 2024. You see their assets up to 355 million. They cut them down dramatically in 2025. You see this? Their assets surged up to 500 million, and their liabilities dropped from 350 million down to 170 million. And since then, they've stayed disciplined, and they see that increase in their company. So their cash is up 1,000% year over year, and total assets up 200% year over year, and their liabilities are up only 22%. So a really, really good balance sheet there on LUNR stock. So what do? Well, Intuitive Machines is the company, and they have this tech where they're building out infrastructure for the US government and even commercial parties on the moon and on Mars. And so it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty sexy, honestly, when we invest in these space companies sometimes. Like, it's really, like, Rocket Lab's been really cool. I love to check out some of these space tech companies, but I invest in them for the long term because one of the things that we like about kind of their approach is they work. You see Colombia, they're working with the US. They kind of like take on this whole like sponsorship ideal with their tech. And they got 4 NASA lunar missions so far. They're founded in 2013, so they've been around the block. They got 400 plus employees, so still kind of smaller, but big enough. And this could be why they recently dipped. They had this public or private offering, $300 million convertible senior notes due 2030. Convertible senior notes. So they're raising money, things like that. That's not always something that's too good. But I'll tell you what, they came in with the balance sheet in a nice way. And so they're doing it right. And they just signed, it was a $9.8 million contract here, phase 2 government contract for orbital transfer vehicles. So a vehicle up in space that could transfer from one vehicle to another in orbit. So I think that's going to be a big deal. Low lunar orbit. So sending out to basically orbit the moon. Some really interesting stuff here. And essentially, what they're doing is really kind of similar to that of like the same market as Black Sky or the same market as Rocket Lab, but rather than, launching rockets, they're kind of focusing on helping with exploration related to the moon, and also vehicle transportation and the commerce that's happening. I don't want to say commerce. Well, yeah, kind of commerce, like moving things from satellite to satellite in space. So with that deal, I like it. When we look at it now, they're kind of at this downtrend we've pointed out, and that they've had over the last few weeks. And if you look back 1 year, though, we see them really steadily build this market cap here up into these levels. We see them up into this range of about $9 a share. At one point, they were up to $24 a share in January. And just kind of watching, they were in this little downtrend here, and we're saying, hey, maybe they could break out. So that's what we're looking for, a breakout there. On LUNR stock, we see them start to maybe break out of this downtrend recently. So they got my eye, and I'm going to keep investing in them right around this time and for the long term. And we also are watching this shorter term play. So hopefully it's helpful. Yeah, Robert, is that a good enough breakdown for you? I actually like the stock. I mean, it's not that I say that for you to buy it. You could not like it, but based on what I see from their balance sheet, that's why I prefer to analyze them over a company that isn't doing as cool stuff. So that's kind of the reasons why I follow them. What's going on with Serve Robotics stock? Luke says Serve Robotics stock in the short term is going to see a lot of volatility. Did they make it on our top 5 robotics companies? I think they did. They're going to see a lot of volatility because, well, first, they're below this resistance at $10.50. Right now, they got a support level here at $9.75. Trying to make a run right now up into $10.60, somewhere in there, about a 6% increase. But they are a company that is partnered with Uber. How many of you guys have been to the city recently? Maybe you've seen something along the lines of these robots that are scrounging the streets and sticking up people for their food and robbing them. No, I'm just kidding. They are walking around. No, they are going to the store or the cafe, and they're taking the food, and then they're sending it, or they're driving it over to the people. And their thing is, why deliver 2-pound burritos in a 2-ton car? And they have this, they're partnered with Uber, they're partnered with NVIDIA, and they are delivering food via robots, which is pretty cool. So, I think from a stock perspective, we look at their market cap, 600 million. They're still a startup. So their revenue is negative, net income, negative 20 million. The balance sheet then looks good. You see 214 million in assets. Their liabilities are low. They basically have a bunch of cash. You could see they don't have a lot of liabilities. They're just, probably building robots. So they're a startup. You can see all their assets are way high while their income is still negative. So they're speculative, but they are a company I've seen real world usage of. I've actually seen them in the city delivering robots. So high risk, maybe even like conservative play, sell down here. We'd like to see this jump into $15 to $21 range, but that would be with good earnings. They don't come in with it. Maybe conservatively, you see a sell down into $7. This is a company that, if you're going to trade, again, kind of, have a plan as we mapped out. But if you're trading it short term, I don't know that it really offers the margin for profit that we would look for. Let's take a look. Maybe a 4% to 5% upswing into that 1060, but not the best deal. You could see maybe a break above into these levels, 20% swing upwards, more of a bullish play. But ultimately, you know, it's kind of a startup. You'd want like tight stop loss, shorter term play. They're more of a long-term advantage than they are short-term. Few probabilities working against them in the short term is that their financials, income statement wise, don't look good. Balance sheet looks great, but income statement wise, you know, not really showing it. Their balance sheet is also, while it's good, they're up to what is it, 200 million. Their market cap's at 600 million. I mean, ideally, from a Benjamin Graham perspective, for a long-term investment, we'd actually like to see their balance sheet more like 500 million for more confidence. But to see them partnered with Nvidia and Uber, you know, maybe they could be okay regardless. You know, I think it's more of a long-term play and pretty high uncertainty on the near term for the stock. But we'll kind of watch, see how they do in the near term. Hopefully that's helpful for you. All right, Luis says AMD stock. Yeah, so AMD, let's take a look, data center stocks or anything else. They're down about 1% today. You see they're down to 175. You know, we're looking for them to hold that support potentially here. We're even running a sale for StockMate. If you missed the flash sale for AMD, we had a target of $200 up here for Wednesday. Hasn't hit that yet. As you can see, they are having a little bit of a correction, kind of maybe trying to hold this previous resistance level as a support, but breaking below that 200-day moving average, holding below that EMA here kind of indicates a little bit more of a pullback. So in their overall trend and what we've seen with the company, more or less it looks something like this, right? You can see this rising support and rising resistance. Rising resistance. And so just from a chart perspective, that's how it looks, that they could sell down. We're looking for that $200 price point. It'd be great to see kind of a bounce like that, or even maybe it sells down before doing so. But if you missed the sale, the flash sale on AMD, for if it hits the $200 price target, you get StockMate. StockMate, our daily live trading that we just wrapped up this morning, if you want to join us there, it is in the second link below, and we reopened for a limited time our AI boom offer. So if you want to learn how to invest in AI stocks, quantum stocks, space tech, and how to identify good deals, to also surround yourself with like-minded individuals, join us in our daily live sessions, and also get a free t-shirt, then it's the second link in the description. And just you click on it, you'll see the AI boom code. There's a special sale there for a limited time. I think, yeah, it should be available for the next day or so. You'll see it there. So again, AMD, not just the chart though. What do we got going on? If you search up AMD stock in the financials, you're gonna see their market cap's at 284 billion. They got on their balance sheet right now around 74 billion. And they have a net income of around $1 billion a quarter with revenue of 7.7 billion. So really looking good from the financial perspective, growing year over year. Almost every company is talking about using AMD. You have Elon is opting to use AMD for a lot of what they do. If you search AMD stock in Starlink, you'll see the AMD Versal chip. You'll also see here AMD in some of our videos on AMD stock with Starlink. So if you ever want a breakdown of AMD, we got some videos out there. That's really cool that they show our videos there. That's funny. But yeah, so they use they create the microchips that go into Starlink. And believe it or not, this entire live session has been run on Starlink. How do you guys feel about the internet connection? Is the audio good? Let me know. It's a Starlink satellite driven stream. So I'll tell you one thing, I've used it. I love the software. Everybody in rural areas likes to use Starlink. and they're growing. I'm in California, in Northern California, up in the mountains near Tahoe. When oftentimes I'm looking out on the horizon, or a sunset of pine trees, something like that. If the sun's setting and I know that there's a launch, I like to look out and you'll see these beautiful blue lights that are like these dots that shoot through the sky, and they're Starlink launching from their Vandenberg base, or the Air Force Vandenberg base over in California here. And so I see them launch. So I see the first world usage. I'm using it right now for this stream. So as far as real world usage indicator, check. As far as financials go, check. As far as literally building data centers for a lot of the biggest tech companies, check. So AMD, I like it. It's a good long-term play. The shorter term play, sometimes we trade AMDL, which is the 2x. We'd probably look for a sell down on a short-term trade to 170 for an AMDL type of trade. But we do trade it in our market live session on the short term sometimes. I also have long-term positions and some calls on AMD stock. So hopefully that's helpful for you, Luis. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for tuning in. All right, McCree says BBAI. Yeah, BBAI, keep it up. We see some moves there. I think they had a slight sell down to start the day today and then recovered. Is that right? So they started the day selling down about 5% and then recovered. They're up to $6 and holding that $6 range. So they have a support here we were talking about yesterday. Can they hold this, sell down to the support even, and then bounce, which is actually what they did. Sold down to 575, which was a previous resistance level that we saw yesterday. Because we were talking, not yesterday, Friday, that there's a resistance level and they could sell down from $6. They did sell down from $6. They didn't hold it. They bounced today at 580, 575, up about 4% from there. And they're trying to hold that $6 range now. So we'll see if they can hold above it. They're above that 200-day. They're above the EMA for the moment. Maybe we get that hold above $6 a share. We saw more increased buying from institutions. When you looked at the deployment of their Veriscan, they got Denver International Airport, John F. Kennedy, so New York, they're in Los Angeles, Montreal. Big expansion ahead of the World Cup for this technology for TSA. And one thing that people don't realize, they have a lot of data. They got Homeland Security or Department of Defense contracts. They have Army contracts. But you know what? While they didn't come in favorably in financials, a lot of paper stuff, not so much true loss. But after they dipped big on their earnings, we saw big buying from institutions, which bounced them back up to $6 a share. And while they have a lot of data here, and people, talk a lot about working with the government, they talk about this TSA contract here that could be $5.4 billion, and TSA is looking for AI-driven biometrics, machine learning, biometric ID verification tools, and you see Veriscan deploying primarily because their CEO was previously Secretary of U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and also working in U.S. Customs and Border Protection as the commissioner there, that he's able to help them expand. I believe that's what's going on. But what's happening really is they're also going directly, not with TSA, directly to the companies. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but they go directly to the airline companies. They say, hey, we'll help you with your passenger identification. Some people aren't even scanning a pass now. They just walk through it, scans their face. They don't even have to scan their ticket, and they just, boom, they walk through. That's pretty cool. So we kind of seen that too, is it's not just the short term, it's kind of long term as well for where they're going. It's not just the government's waiting on that one contract, it's the build out of maybe working with individual airlines or ports individually as well. So we're going to keep a close eye on them. We see their financials. They got a $2 billion market cap. They've recently came in with on paper, pretty big loss. Net loss actually cash or revenue wise, actually, I think was around 10 million. But on paper, with everything they had going on, some things of goodwill and and other things was about a negative $220 million loss. Revenue kind of held around 32, but still lower than expected, and the guidance was adjusted. Maybe they come in with 180 million or 200 million in a quarter. That would be ideal. But I think they adjust it for more like 130 to 150. One thing, they had liabilities really high in 2024, actually higher than their assets, but they did cut their liabilities and they ended up surging their assets to 600 million recently with liabilities at 332. So financials looking good. Assets are up 66% year over year, while liabilities are only up about 28%. So, long term looks great. Short term, a lot of volatility. We're kind of watching, seeing if they can hold that $6 range, maybe even get a sell back down to 580. But, next level of resistance we'd watch is kind of that push up into that $7 range if they could break out above 6. So that's kind of how the near term looks, to see how they are reacting after that recent pull down in their earnings that pulled them back to where they were in June. So hopefully that's helpful there for you. Appreciate you. Thanks for tuning in. McChris, let's go. Biggie says Soundhound. All right, let's take a look at Soundhound real quick. So Soundhound is a company that specializes in AI voice, and they're partnered with some of the biggest brands in the world. They recently sold down about 5% today, and they were up about 47% from mid-August. We saw them early August, they were breaking up into resistance levels here at about $16.50 or $17. And they just recently started to pull back down to this previous support, this previous resistance, at around $14 a share. And so we see them pull back down. This is kind of maybe where they buy, or where they, would bounce something like this if they're more in a bullish state and they could continue this direction and this market cap that they've been building. Otherwise, if they can't hold there, we're looking for more of maybe even down in that $13.50 range. It's another 5%. Very conservative, healthy pullback would be down to $10. But here's the story for them. When we look at the AI companies right now, a lot of, big companies are not opposed to using contractors or hiring out. There was this interesting article that showed that the company that is the third party that McDonald's hires for their for the AI voice was talking with Soundhound, and potentially that's going to be a deal because that company also works with Soundhound on other things. Soundhound is their assisting voice. How many of you guys have been to a restaurant or a fast food recently? And then you see how many of you guys have been to a fast food restaurant or something and they have an AI voice assist? Any of you guys seen that? Booby says they've done nothing in a long time. All right. Well, they've had a lot more partnerships than 6 months ago. I think they are. I don't know what a long time is in your eyes, Booby, but you got Hyundai. They're working with Kia, Genesis, Stellantis on as well as Lucid for in-car audio AI voice platform. They're working with the fast food places. They got White Castle. They're working with Chipotle there, Applebee's, Jersey Mike's with the AI voice. They're even working with banking as well on some AI voice stuff. So maybe that's related to the phones or something. They're working with Telefonica. So maybe caller stuff like that, call center stuff. So that's kind of the breakdown. And when it comes to some of the growth we would expect for them, looking at their financials, they're coming in negative net income, and they are balance sheets. My wife are the people for the counters here? Yeah. Oh. All right, guys, I'm gonna have to get going. The counters are coming in. I gotta install them here. But anyway, all assets are up to 600 million. So their balance sheet looks good. Conito, no bark. And we're looking for maybe a bounce around $14. Appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you guys want to join us in our daily live trading tomorrow morning, it's the second link in the description. AI boom sales closing soon. If you want lifetime access, not pay a recurring revenue, subscription. It's the second link down below in the description. So go check, just simply take a look at the second link down below. If I earned your thumbs up, hit the like button. Do consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video.